Good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's joined us for our webinar, Accelerated Customer Acquisition with AI-powered Chatbots. Hi, my name is Pete DiStefano. I'm VP of Marketing here in Piger Technologies. Today with my partner in crime, Ritwik Bose, who's our Senior Director of Consulting at Piger, we're going to be taking you through a webinar specific to chatbots and how chatbots can have a real impact from a sales and marketing perspective. Just really quickly, Piger for 13 years now has been implementing with customers ways to enable this digital transformation to help companies change how they do business. We've been doing this by implementing technology that helps automate business processes and improve the customer engagement, employee engagement, and also helping executives manage their business. Today is all about customer engagement. And as we go through and we talk about chatbots, this is one very interesting tool that everyone now has at their disposal to help improve customer engagement. I'm going to encourage everyone on the call to fire in questions as you see fit. We will do our best to answer all your questions at the end of the webinar, and if for some reason we can't get to all the questions, we will follow up with answers to everyone after the fact. We'll also make this presentation available to everyone as well after the presentation. But again, I gauge success and adding value to the people who are taking time out of their lunch, just taking time out of their day to spend with Piger. And the way I gauge success is engagement. So I really do encourage you to ask any question that you have. Hopefully you'll learn something today, you'll get some perspective today on this topic, but the best way to really do that is understand what situations you have and how we might be able to provide some guidance there. So for today, the agenda, again, I'm going to start out very quickly on, what is a chatbot and how can chatbots help marketers? How can a artificial intelligence powered chatbot help create engagement and generate leads? How you can integrate chatbots into your existing environment. This is a very important thing. How easily can I get this thing to help me out without messing around, messing up my current environment? How do I implement a chatbot for my business specifically? And then we will spend a little time talking at the end about a platform that Piger's built to build chatbots. So I hope that is an agenda that you guys expected. I believe it is directly in line with what we promoted, and we'll get going here. I'm going to start our presentation off with a couple of facts. International Data Corp, or IDC as they're known, as well as Gartner Group. These are analysts who do all sorts of evaluation. They talk to businesses, do surveys, do a lot of research, make predictions. And IDC says that this year, 75% of developers will include some measure of artificial intelligence in their digital products. Gartner, way back in 2011, predicted by 2020 that 85% of all customer interactions with a business wouldn't necessarily involve humans. You can imagine how that would definitely create lots of conversation around the water cooler. Gartner went further to say that by 2020, the average person will have more conversations with bots than their spouse. Now, I've been married more than 30 years. I'm trying to think, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? I'm just kidding. The point is technology, especially with these chatbots, is providing a vehicle that I've, quite frankly, with all the growth, I've been in the business a long time, all the different technologies and types of architectures and types of technologies, I've rarely seen something that has grown so big so quick. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through our presentation. This, I think, is also important because a lot of people talk about, well, geez, these bots are taking all the jobs and the robots are taking over. And there's a belief, and again, this is also from Gartner, but there's been several companies that have evaluated this, very respected analysts that say that they believe this whole idea around artificial intelligence is actually going to help grow more jobs than it can potentially eliminate. And it really is about how you implement artificial intelligence, and we're going to talk a lot about that today as well. So let's start just like, what is a chatbot? And I apologize, most of you probably do know what a chatbot is, but really quickly, it's a computer program that simulates a human conversation or a chat through artificial intelligence. So it's basically emulating a human being, a thinking, intelligent human being, to have a dialogue. Okay, whether it's customer service, whether it's information acquisition, whether it's commerce. And today we're going to talk a lot about the marketing and sales elements of engaging with prospects with this software tool that basically emulates a conversation with a human being. So let's talk a couple about terms. You know, for years and years, and I'm an old guy, so I've been around a long time. We talk about programs. Well, a bot is basically a software program. A bot can be just about anything. A chatbot, the difference is now you're introducing human language. And it's not just typing human language, although we're going to talk a lot about the way people interface today. It could also be voice. But a chatbot really brings human language and natural human language into the frame. We'll talk about that. An artificial intelligence assistant, or an AI assistant, this is where instead of this tool running standalone, it can literally become an assistant and provide services for an individual, whether that be a consumer or it could be for a salesperson, or it could be for a marketer. And then finally, a skill. Well, it's a capability that an AI assistant can learn. For example, and I think many of you are familiar with Google's product, or Alexa, the Echo products, and you'll ask Alexa to play some music, and you'll say to play this kind of music and that kind of music, and then you might say, next, I don't like this, next, I don't like this. Alexa over time learns what you like, not just those genres, but she will learn a skill knowing what you like, and then she'll start playing just the music that you like. So it's the capability through artificial intelligence to learn a skill and then apply that. So this chatbot craze, it's not a craze, it's not a fad. I mean, and these statistics came from a variety of different surveys, but almost 100% of businesses believe chatbots are here to stay. And I think the reason they believe that is for the last 2 to 3 years, they've just been growing, whether it's a large company or a small company or mid-sized company, these chatbots, they're helping, they're working. So it's not just about a technology, it's about solving a business problem, filling gaps, leveraging this tool. 75% of businesses plan to build a chatbot, and this was in 2017. 80% claim they're either already using one or plan to use them by 2020. And then 67% of businesses believe chatbots will outperform mobile apps. Now, and by the way, we build mobile apps. So I was like, well, what are you talking about? Well, what is this thing about a chatbot? Why is it growing so fast? Why is it really becoming such a big deal? So, Rivik, tell me, what is it that customers want?
So today the customers basically are looking out for engagement, right? And when I talk about engagement, I'm precisely mentioning about what is an intelligent conversation that the brand can have with the customer. Now, when we are looking at customers, let's go back 5 years, and everyone used to talk over phone. There was a lot of conversation which is happening with the brand over the phone. But over the last couple of years, we are seeing that the messaging platform by itself has gone up, which is people are communicating more. And today, if you look at it, just in US, we have about 35.6 million users who are using chats or any kind of messaging platforms to basically interact with the brand. And that also boils down to the point, what is that number? I mean, how much of transactions or how much of chat messages are we looking at? So in each given month, there is at least about 1 billion messages that pass between businesses and people. And I talk about people, it could be your employees or it could be your consumers. And all of them are chatting. So that's kind of like what we're looking at in terms of what customers are expecting or how they would want to interact with the brand. Now, when we look at the number of apps which are out there, we started back in 2011 when all these different kind of messaging apps came, and it was about 0.05 billion apps. But today, we are looking at about 1.5 billion apps which are only focused in terms of chat. Now, when I talk about apps, it could be a consumer-facing app, it could be a business-facing app, which is for your own employees. So there are different ways that everyone would want to save money in terms of getting the right information at the right time by the right source. Some numbers over here, and why chatbots is kind of like becoming a colloquial word today. We are looking at about 76 million users who are using apps in different forms. Now, when I say apps, it could be just another app like a Facebook Messenger or your Skype or your internal tool apps like Slack. And these kind of tools, there are a lot of conversation happening. Just in about 1 year, from 2016 to 2017, there were close to about 30 different variants of devices which focused on improvising the chat environment or how you communicate, whether it is through voice or through type. And if you look at the bot industry, now we looked at some of the terms, bot and chatbots. Chatbots by itself has grown so much today that people are expecting, or the consumers are expecting to interact with your brand and knowing that, yes, your brand do have a bot where they can have a quick chat with. And it is not your traditional web chat or a calling application. It is basically where the brand itself knows who you are, what you are trying to get from that particular website or mobile application. These are some of the common chatbot use cases. Now, when we look at the different spectrum of users, we look at the internal users where your IT services, and we have seen that a generic questions like, I want my password to be reset, that itself amounts to a good amount of questions by a company who is providing managed IT services. And we have seen that coming quite often where people are looking at password reset or, what's my username, or can I get access to this application? Can I have access to this document? And things like that. Even from a human resource perspective, how many leave balances I have, can I take a leave next month, or, how do I reach out for an event perspective? So there are different use cases that we have seen from a chatbot perspective. Now, when we look at customer service also has a lot of activity which is going on where your consumers would want to interact with you to either check for orders, they would want to check for product, the right kind of product that they want, or just generic questions. And from a sales and marketing, how better your resources are equipped in terms of giving that right answer and not scouting for answers either on their own learning management systems or document portals and giving that information. So these are some of the use cases that we have seen from a chatbot perspective. Today, what we'll do is we will focus on how chatbots influence or increase the sales and marketing visibility for any organization.
All right, and as I mentioned earlier, we talked a lot about how these things are growing, and they're not taking over. Okay, the only chance we have of the robots taking over is if you guys see Arnold sitting there in the front row. The reality is, if a chatbot is written properly, it is a great assistant to a company, and it really is a win-win when you combine the capabilities of a chatbot, whether it be with a salesperson or to support a marketing site and all the other myriad of use cases that Ritwik had touched on. But as Ritwik mentioned earlier, the number of messaging, 23 billion text messages every day. And what's interesting is today, most texts, 90% of them, are read within 3 minutes. So, if you remember, if you've got any gray hair at all when email first started coming out, now that just seems to be this huge box of stuff that we all deal with. But when we get a text, regardless of the text, we all tend to go right to our phone and look at what was that text. Well, how can a chatbot help? Well, first of all, it is about messaging, right? And we're talking a lot about text and physical written messages, but it can be just as applicable leveraging voice. But the more communication you have, the more customer engagement you have, it's better, and a chatbot can help there. Speeding up response times, getting prospects the information, what they need, when they need, get it to them quickly, being able to qualify leads, and then passing off a lead to a human at the appropriate time. So the chatbot can be a great marketing assistant, a great sales assistant, but I think the power in these types of engagement tools is when they're combined with their human counterparts as opposed to replacing them. A lot of times a chatbot can do the heavy lifting up front, and the higher end, higher value, higher quality engagements, you never replace those without having a human being involved. So let's talk a little bit about sales and marketing chatbots. What are they? Well, first of all, they're available all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week. They're always happy. The chatbots, at least so far, they never seem to have an attitude. They're very consistent, and you can scale them up and down very easily based on what your needs are and who you're targeting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how a chatbot can impact your web, qualify leads, personalizing the user experience, which is so important beyond just chatbots today, and then integrating bots beyond your website, and then having it either assisted or unassisted be a tool that can help you sell your products. So let's talk about web. I would say there's lots of data that 80% of people who engage, build a bot to engage with clients, they have it on their website. But believe it or not, even though that's 80%, that's still not the top usage for chatbots today. So let's talk about putting a chatbot on your website. It's all about capturing your visitors, getting them to spend more time on your site, getting them to learn more about your product or service. And the goal is to emulate a live chat. You see that statistic I have there, 57% of customers prefer live chat. There's a lot of web chat that people have, and some of you out there might use it, where there's a script that it's really not even a person behind it. Well, a chatbot is not a live person, but it can emulate a live chat. And we haven't talked about this yet, but it is okay. Matter of fact, it is preferred that you let your prospects know that they're talking to a software robot. Matter of fact, a lot of evaluation has been done with this, and customers don't care if they're talking to a chatbot as long as they're getting the information they need. However, they do care if you mask the fact and you pretend that who the person's talking to is a human being. So customers don't care about it being a chatbot, but they do care if you try to pass a chatbot off as if it was a human being. Now, what about building your flow? Well, again, we talked about engaging. Customers can interact directly with bots to get questions answered, get relevant information, guide them to the right parts of the website so they spend more time on the page. You don't have to do, and I just did this actually this morning. There was a site I was looking at, it was a commerce site, where I had to click some boxes, I had to fill out a couple information to do my filtering. Well, the chatbot, it's English language, natural English language. You can just say, hey, I'm looking for this, and we'll show you some examples and some demos of that later on. But the other thing, as far as increasing your flow, I've actually manned live chat, web chat before. And it says here, in some of the research I did, that a human being can handle up to about 3 customers at one time. I'm not sure I'm that good. A chatbot, of course, can handle many, 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 many more than 3 customers at one time because it is a software robot. So the idea that you can have multiple people engaging, many people engaging, getting the information they need will continue to drive your web traffic up. And by the way, there's all sorts of examples and statistics on conversion rates, web traffic just by implementing a chatbot that communicates. It says, hello, how can I help you? And then passes information or passes you on to the right part of your website. Something that simple can have an impact on the customer's experience. What about qualifying leads? Anyone on the call that is a marketing leader or involved in marketing knows how important it is to nurture, because not everyone's ready to buy right away. So being able to leverage a chatbot to help educate, guide, communicate, and then when it comes to final qualification, nothing replaces a human being. But as I mentioned earlier, the chatbot can do a lot of the work, do a lot of the groundwork to understand where the person is in the sales funnel, where they are they at that point where now you could pass it on to a human being, then can do the final qualification and hopefully move it forward. So again, chatbot as an assistant here can really help with the whole qualification, the thought leadership, and education process. Personalizing the user experience. I don't know what CMSs that you guys use or how much you do digital marketing or even the emails that you send out, the advertising you do. Today, it's all about providing a personalized experience, because the data shows that the more personalized you are, the more you're in tune to knowing that customer and what they want, the higher chance you have of them doing business with you. So at a chatbot level, here's two examples of where this example on the left, it's where this chatbot's basically say, hey, can you take a short quiz? They'll get some answers to some questions, and now that they have that information, then they can guide that prospect a little more targeted, a little more specific to the kinds of guest makeup tips that they might be interested in. Similarly, this next example in the middle is really showing kind of an interview style to where this person's trying to learn, or the chatbot's trying to learn a little more about, where they're having a problem, learn more about when the problem existed, but gathering that information. Again, after they've gotten that information, chatbots can be programmed now to take that information and provide back a personalized set of information. And again, personalization, whether it's with your chatbot, whether it's your website, whether it's your digital advertising, whether it's the emails you're sending out, is critical to be successful in today's marketing and sales environment. Here's just one more example. So this CNN news bot is probably, this is a very successful, very visible news bot that's used by a lot of people. And all CNN did here was, it was a little bit, it wasn't a lot, it just said, hey, let me provide a few lists of options for the types of news that someone wants to get. And just by providing that, this news bot blew up. It is one of the more popular ones. Again, in this case, this kind of capability can be that simple and applies to any kind of bot. So whether you're talking about on your web, or in this case, something like Facebook Messenger, they can very easily set up to do a variety of things to help provide personalization. So we've talked a little about the web. Rivik, can you talk a little bit more about what do you mean putting these in messaging platforms?
Right. So the way we look at it, Pete, is most of, okay, let's go back a little again. When we see chatbots, everything has started from the word messaging. You start chatting. So all these different kind of mobile messaging platforms or social networking sites, what they have started doing is they have, in the recent advancement for all of these platforms, they have started introducing the natural language understanding and processing, which is the NLUMP. Now, what it does is it allows you to create bots that can understand a natural language, which is from any dialect. It could be voice-based or chat-based, text-based, anything of that sort. Now, when we look at these platforms, we are looking at platforms which are already available to be used for messaging, for communications, whether it is for consumer communication or whether it is internal communications. So platforms like Facebook, platforms like Twitter, Telegram, and all, they are more on the consumer side, but platforms like Slack, they're great for the company because you can do project management, you can interact with others who are interacting, and the bots itself will know what are your tasks for the day, who has assigned you a task, and it will remind you and things like that. So when we look at all of these different messaging platforms, we are basically looking at a system which is rooted in its early adoption to be interacting with the user. The platform itself is a social environment where you can interact, with the consumer or with your employees. Now, as we move ahead, we see that bots have started, integrating. People are using where their consumer lies. So today, as a brand, if I see that most of my customers are interacting with me on Facebook or they're interacting with me on Twitter, I would rather have a bot built for those platforms so that we can leverage the extra mile of communication with them. And that is where the entire philosophy of a social bot, which is an automated solution, which will do the mundane and the repetitive task of pushing some of the product related information to the user, or telling them this is the best product because they have looked at certain products in the past, in those lines. So all of that comes into the picture. The bot basically guides the customer to the right product. Now, when we see the bots, there are two sides of the bot. One is you are basically messaging the user or educating the user about your products, but how do you go that extra mile of using the bot as a person, as a salesperson, to sell your products? So what we've seen in the H&M company, the clothing company, what their bot is very interactive in the first place, and what it also does is it gives you these subtle messages that from an emotional level, it will make you feel good because, whether this particular product is, right for my size, whether the products will go with my style, with my clothing style, all of that gets integrated. So this becomes another channel for you to sell, and it's not just asking the user or just promoting your product, but you're also selling through the chatbot itself. Now we'll go into some of the demonstrations, from a retail perspective. Chatbot by itself cuts across every domain and vertical that we know. I mean, today when we look at Industry 4.0 or even 5.0, people have started talking about 5.0, but we are looking at chatbot that goes from both the sales and marketing side to the brand consumer side, and even from an employee side, or automating some of the pre-existing processes so that you can get much more intelligent answers. So let's look at some of the examples of chatbots that retailers are using. And these are some of the examples that we have looked at. You've seen that most retailers, the primary questions are the primary frustrations of consumers, what are they when they come online? The buying journey is, I start looking at products on the web, and then if the site does not give me the right information, I might just bounce off from that particular shopping site. So there are certain levels of frustrations that a bot can reduce, which is whether it is not responsive, the site is not responsive towards my needs in terms of where I need to get the information about the product, whether there are too much of campaigns which are going on. A lot of sites, they promote a lot in terms of seasonal promotions or offers and coupons, whether I want to see that. There are a lot of retailers who focus a lot on forms and surveys, and there are a lot of retailers who are taking the next generation of interactions, which is gamifying it. So we are looking at different levels of frustration at every level, and that's exactly what chatbot is reducing today. This is one example where we look at a chatbot which is deployed for one of the solutions using our framework, where you can actually interact with the bot itself and gets me the right kind of decisions to make, what kind of product which is right for me. Because most of the time, what happens is when I'm buying a product, I would like to see what is the relevance of that product to me, or what is the best-selling product. But it also matters whether that particular product is the right fit for me. And this particular example shows that how the bot understands, just by specific or rather short answers, how effectively I can go and locate the right product or get the right product information. And at the same time, it can also give me frequently asked questions like, whether, how do I take care of the product, what are the best product, for the day or for the week, which is the most trending product. So these are subtle information that we can provide to a user as an intelligent in an intelligent way. The next example is again another way of looking at the chatbot, which is the primary question is, do you want the user to know that they are interacting with the chatbot, or are they interacting with a human being? A lot of companies or a lot of surveys do show that it is important that you let your visitors, whether it is on the web or app or any messaging platforms, that it is a bot, it is an AI-driven bot, because they should not get frustrated, or even in those lines, if they really want to talk to a human, the bot can then direct the call to a live person. But eventually what you see on the screen is a very natural language way of interacting with the bot, whether it is looking for a specific kind of account number or details on credit cards and things like that. So there are a lot of things that come into place when it is bot, because you need to also consider the security elements, how the information has been shown on a bot or on a chat window and how that has been taken. So most of the information that we see on a chatbot today needs to be easily understood by a person, and it also needs to make sure that the business takes in only the information which is which is asked for the security compliance of that particular organization. Now, when we look at chatbot, we have to look beyond mobile. So let's go beyond that. Beyond web. So we can deploy bot as something, or a chatbot is something that can go or cut across any type of platform, whether it is a web platform, whether it is a mobile application of your own brand, or whether it is sitting on any of these different kind of messaging platforms which are out there. So these are some examples where the bot actually resides on a dedicated mobile app for the brand. But when we go beyond that, we are looking at messaging platforms like Skype and Facebook, because these are Facebook Messenger, because these are something that pretty much everyone uses on a daily basis. Now, what you do is, when you deploy these specific bots in these platforms, it is easy for the user to connect. You don't need to necessarily have another application on your mobile just to interact with your brand, because today, at any given point of time, study says that a person would have not more than 20 apps on their devices. And it becomes a friction, because if the application experience is not good enough, then the chat experience will die out there. So it is better you leverage these different kind of social messaging platforms to promote your products and services and interact with your consumers from a sales and marketing perspective.
So I know that I'm assuming, since you've joined this webinar, you've been thinking about, hey, how can I apply this to my business? And then if you've got that visual, okay, I think I have, but how do I get going? How do I get started? What's the right process to follow? So we feel very strongly about this, and everything we've ever done as a company, regardless of what the project is, you start small, and then you get some experience, and you do a lot assisting in the training. And training for a chatbot is really understanding, going and looking at all the different places where that information is, talking to the right people. I'll talk about that in a moment. Also, making sure that there's a smooth handoff from the software robot to the human being, whether it be through a form, which it could be, or directly to a live person. The verbal vernacular support. Remember, chatbot's all about natural language and the natural language processing. So you want to make sure, like, I actually write the way I speak, which is bad if you want to be a writer. And a lot of people will write a certain way. Well, this is not about writing, right? This is about communication. So the vernacular you use is very important when you're building a chatbot. That's why you really need to understand who is it you're targeting, and you need to make sure that the natural language that's being used is the type of language that would be acceptable to your target audience. And then, like anything, you start small, you get a project going, you test it, and you revise it. You could look at chatbot as like either a newborn baby, or probably a better example is a new employee, that you onboard them with a certain amount of information, and then based on their experience and time, they're always improving, and you should be thinking of your project that way. And then the metrics. I'm going to talk a lot about metrics in a moment. So just to kind of drill down a little bit more, as you can see, just by the amount of copy or text we have in that first one, it starts with the job description, and I liken it to a job description because, again, I look at that chatbot as another resource for your sales and marketing. So reviewing all to get those use cases, or to really understand what the objective is of that chatbot, talk to customers or look at who all your customer touch points are. Know who the customer is. What are their pains? What are your salespeople doing? How are they engaging with customers? Look at your website chat logs. You can learn a lot from how those chats have gone. Review purchase patterns, sales type, customer inquiries. So the point is really you want to upfront understand what are you trying to accomplish with the chatbot. Okay, then after you've understood the touch points, you want to make sure, whether it's through human, it's through messaging, through email or phone, all of these are still ways that a chatbot can engage. And then, of course, you've got the systems and the integration points, because depending on how sophisticated or how much information you want to go back and grab from other systems to provide that information real time to that consumer, you just need to understand, okay, how do I get this information into the chatbot that's going to respond to that customer? And then when you've done that, you kind of prioritize, you look at all these different use cases. Okay, what are my top priorities? And you can look at that based on the severity, the impact it can have on your business, how complex, and what you believe the ROI is. The next step is, do you build it or buy it? Now, depending on if you're a bigger company, you've got an IT staff that's going to learn the code, most of you are probably looking to buy, but whether you build or buy, you could be buying a platform and building it yourself. So it's something you want to look at. Obviously, in PyGurf, we have a vested interest in your evaluation there, but it's something you just need to look at. This next thing, boxed versus unboxed, well, what does that mean? Well, first off, you want to start with a boxed chatbot. And boxed means you are controlling what the questions are and what the types of answers are that you're going to provide. You want to start out simple that way. Unboxed is where you really start to engage at another level with learning from your chatbot's artificial intelligence capability, to where over time and more unboxed, it gives more freedom to the chatbot as it's learning to engage with other answers. Again, when you're starting out, feel real strongly that you start off small and you start off with boxed environment, which is something you can totally control. And then, of course, it's looking at making sure you have a secure environment, your deployment. And then I mentioned how important metrics are. Just like when you're evaluating an employee, a salesperson or marketing person, whoever it might be, you want to evaluate how the chatbot's doing. So what is your success measurement? And you have to have metrics. And no matter who you do business with, this is really important. How many interactions did the chatbot have? How much time did they spend? You know, what was the click-through rate, whatever that click-through was, whether it was to take them to a website, whether it was to engage in a product brief. The other thing is confusion triggers, very important. When was it the chatbot didn't deliver the proper answer, where there might have been frustration from the prospect? You want to make sure that you have a solution that captures all this information so you can improve upon the chatbot and evaluate whether or not it's met the goals, you've had the success you expected to have with that solution. Okay, we're going to shift here. We still have about 10 minutes or so before we open up for questions. I'm going to ask Ritwik to take you through Empiger's platform for building a chatbot. And part of that is you'll learn a little bit about our platform, but it'll also kind of educate you a little bit on what a chatbot platform typically is like. I'm going to pass it to you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Pete. So Priya.ai. Priya.ai is a very easy to build bot. And when we say, and we look at it as a platform where anyone can use to build a bot in under 15 minutes. You just need about 15 minutes to build a bot, and that does not require you to have any kind of programming language or knowledge. So it is basically a solution which gives you the freedom, and when I say freedom, it gives you freedom with different kind of tools. Now, a chatbot is not just about building the flow of what's the decision tree for a question and answer. It is not just another Q&A forum. It is basically a platform where you can create your own, which is a bot that can go across any kind of platforms, like social platforms. It is running on an Azure cloud. It is a very a tool which saves a lot of time because most of the APIs that we integrate with is simpler. It also gives you another tool, which is an FAQ builder, which basically means that how exactly a question flow should be, whether you would want to answer it using video or image or GIF files, and it also focuses on a lot in terms of how do you assign these workflow. Now, when we look at how this entire platform is built, we see that there are two levels of communication. You can use Priya.ai for your own customer engagement, or you can use it for the employee side of it. Now, when we look at the platform basically consumes the APIs from any type of source. It could be your payment system, it could be your CRM, it could be your your catalog system or your content management system. But typically what Priya works is it has these cognitive builders which leverages different kind of APIs. It includes your face APIs or language-based APIs, and using those specific APIs, it gives you a consistent end-to-end experience that can cut across web or mobile. So it is a platform for you to build solutions, build bots and manage the bots and manage the content for your bots effectively. Now, what we are trying to solve over here is basically to ensure that we give you a platform which allows you to connect with different kind of channels, those social channels, whether it is voice-activated channels like Amazon and Google Home, or whether it is web-based channels or app-based channels. But at the same time, the platform also takes in a lot of information from the cognitive side of the world, which is your natural language processing, understanding the speech, different kind of intents which go in. So my intention to show my frustration in different way on a chat window can be perceived by the bot in different environment. And along with that, as I mentioned about the face recognition, if the app is allowing the users to open up their face tool, it can basically understand and react in that way. But the way we have built the platform is to solve certain challenges. Most of the time that we have seen is that, or we have heard from our customers, is implementing chatbot, does it take really too long? What am I solving out here? Or is it too, can it be done quickly? See, creating bots, there is most of the time what other platforms does recommend is you need to have a significant amount of technical knowledge. And what we are reducing with our platform is you do not have to have a technical background to create your bot. And that's basically what we're focusing on. In terms of deployment and managing your bots, a bot can be just a consumer-facing bot. It can be internal bot. Our platform allows you to host multiple bots that can go across for different type of your users, whether you want a bot specific for your customers, whether you want a bot specific for your finance team, or a bot for your accounts team, sales and marketing team, you can manage that. And that's exactly what our platform plays, because tomorrow when you look at it, any kind of bot platforms which are out there, a significant amount of cost will go into your infrastructure, which plays a very critical role when it comes to deploying the bot. So that's one of the reasons why we have a bot directory, so that you can utilize your existing environment, your existing infrastructure, and just leverage that for our bot directory. So the way we have built the entire platform is simplistic. It's a very minimalistic view that we have kept in mind, which allows you to create a quick pattern in terms of just drag and drop patterns. You can create your own workflow. You can associate different channels or add channels. What you see over here, which is basically like we can focus on different kind of social channels, or whether we want to focus on how exactly a person interacting once they come into the chat, where they should go in, what they should see, and what kind of information that will come out of that particular conversation. And then also we do allow as an admin to the entire bot platform, what is the metrics that the bot is capturing, and that is something that the platform does come with.
Okay, thanks, Rupik. So I've got just a couple more slides, but I do want to share one thing with you. Again, you will get this presentation. I suggest you maybe use a slide deck to help you identify a list of candidates, although I'm going to guess that some of you already have some ideas of where you might deploy a chatbot. But look at the 2, 3, 4, get a short list of 5 or 6 different implementations that you might have for whether it's your website, maybe it's for a messaging platform, and then kind of go through that evaluation. You know, understand who it is you're targeting, what is the information that you'll be providing that the chatbot, what is the problem the chatbot is solving or the gap it's filling. And then pick one. You know, pick one based on you doing your own analysis of which one makes the most sense, again, based on priority, based on impact to your business. And that's what you pick for your pilot. But then you start with a small subset. You go out there and get some experience. Matter of fact, you know, I was supposed to be showing a couple of the Empiger chatbots today, but we're kind of like the shoe cobbler's children. Ever since we really started driving this earlier in the year, we've gotten so much, so many people engaged that I keep having to fight for the development time. So in the next couple of weeks, if you go to the Empiger Tech website, you'll see more of a marketing assistant and a couple other examples of chatbots. One describes what a chatbot is, so it's kind of an educational chatbot. But my point is, start small. But my suggestion to you is, while this is fresh in your mind, while you're looking at that, when you go back to the office today or tomorrow, kind of think through some of those use cases in a little more detail, and see if you can, you know, do a little analysis. Okay, where do I start? I do want to just share a couple things for those people today who have joined our webinar. If you go back and you do that homework I talked about, oops, sorry. Let me go here. I'll go back to those other 2 slides. We'd like to offer some consulting services. So if you've done some initial analysis and you'd just like to get on the phone with us, or we can, depending on where you are, we can meet face-to-face. We'd love to talk you through your thoughts, your ideas, and implementation and strategy. So we'd like to offer some free consulting there. We've done quite a few of these and love to offer some of that up. So for those of you who have attended, you know, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to do that. I do want to just take 2 seconds to talk about Empiger. I mentioned earlier we really work with companies enabling digital transformation, and I know that's a big word. But to even further simplify it, you know, we've been innovation partners with companies, and it's basically implementing the latest technologies to solve business problems or to enable business opportunities that maybe you couldn't do before, but with technology, you're able to do something you couldn't do before. And that's really what we've focused on and will continue to focus on. And we've evolved with the market and technology as it's evolved over the years. Just some stats on us. We've been around 13 years. We've had a lot of customers, mobile, web, lots of different technology implementations, robotic process automation, doing a lot now with artificial intelligence, including chatbots, Internet of Things. So, we've been around a while, and we literally continue to work as a partner, an innovation partner with companies as technology evolves. But it's not, and this is really important, it's not technology for technology's sake. It is, how do I implement technology in a way that can help solve business problems? And we help small companies, mid-sized companies, we help startups, and we work with some very large companies. But we really focus a lot on mid-sized companies. The last thing I'll leave you with, and then we'll open it up for questions, and again, I'll send you this back out. There's a lot of thought leadership and education we're doing around digital engagement. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the American Disabilities Act and ADA website compliance, but we do a lot of work in that area, and it's not just about testing and fixing, but it's also evaluating what is the right thing to do based on where my website is, and how do you have a cost-effective approach? Because those of you who have dealt with it, you've probably seen where it can be a challenge and it can be a costly endeavor. So we'll be promoting that, but just FYI, you just have to go to empygoodtech.com/webinars and you'll see the registration for that. All right, let me move over to some Q&A. Looks like we have about 6-7 minutes to go. So let's see here. Okay, here's a question. Find out more customer-like product. Okay, if chatbots can re-engage, for an example, find out how a customer liked the product or service next time they use the web. Not sure if you're accepting questions. When you are, can you tell me if a chatbot can re-engage, for an example?
Yeah, I can take that up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So yes, chatbots can actually go ahead and re-engage. A lot of the so when we are looking at our consumers, we are looking at where the consumers are interacting, whether they're sharing about the products and things like that. At the same time, we also do have information about what the consumer has purchased, from a products or services standpoint. But yes, there are ways where chatbots can do proactive reach out in terms of, probably you can assign the bot or let the bot know that, after a couple of weeks, the bot should reach out to the consumer, whether, on a mobile app or on the messaging platforms like Facebook or, or different kind of other tools or platforms. But yes, they can actually go ahead and do retargeting. There are a lot of companies who are using platforms like Twitter and Facebook to basically start interacting if there's a social mention about the brand on these platforms. So if I talk about a specific product and use references like hashtags and things like that, the bots can actually do an information search and can proactively reach out to the customer, whether it is related to frustration or whether it is related to a product inquiry. So yes, it can do that.
Okay, if someone can email, what would be the practical use in healthcare for a chatbot? And yeah, there's actually, I can go back here, there are multiple use cases in healthcare. I'm just going to zip right back here to one slide and we can talk about it, but it's everything from appointment setting to, let's see, do I have it here? Do I not have it? Oh, you know what, I don't have it in here.
Okay.
Okay, but we can talk to it. So, one of the things from a healthcare, I'll leave this up because this does have some of this here, but the capability to book appointments, depending if it's a hospital or if it's a health organization or a practice, it could be inquiring about different doctors. It could be inquiring about different symptoms or different health issues that I have. It could be guiding me to different products for healthcare. So it could be anything from helping engage an existing patient or someone who's a member of like a practice or post-care after being in the hospital. It can help provide guidance to a patient on the proper things they need to do after they come home from the hospital. But one of the big things we're seeing is, tied to patient portals, is being able to set up appointments, change appointments with a specific doctor, learn more about a specific set of products, and then just provide guidance on different ailments and symptoms. Anything you want to add to that?
And in addition to that, what we have seen is chatbots in the healthcare has taken one step ahead, and this could be in terms of diagnosing your symptoms faster, easier, or whether it is a tool that can basically briefly track a person's, which is mostly about a prescriptive care or a post-care service, which could be in the form of either tracking that person's health, how or mood, or just a simple use case. Like we had we worked with one of the cancer support communities out there, and what we did see that there was a lot of mood related information that is very valuable for the industry to tap on. And a simple bot can interact with the patients on a regular basis just to interact with them and see how their mood levels are. But apart from that, there are a lot of study which goes on from a chatbot itself. Like, for instance, the UCLA Medical Center, and this is just an example that is out there. The interventional radiologist of the UCLA team, what they did was they created a virtual radiologist, a virtual chatbot that basically provides you clinical decision support, which uses at least about 2,000 different data points and cases to interact, from a user perspective, questions related to any kind of radiologist, or it could be just giving out healthcare information as Pete suggested, different kind of resources for everyone or individually in the workplace. That is something that they can do.
One of the questions is, how important is it to let a prospect know that you're talking to a bot?
It is very important, because one thing a bot would not be able to understand at the very beginning of a conversation is what's your emotion at that point in time. Are you frustrated with the brand, or are you just querying about any specific product? What level of mood you are in at that point of time. So I think from what we have seen in different studies, it is very important that you let your user know that they are interacting with the bot, but at the same time, personify your bot. Give the bot a person feel so that they understand, and that is the importance of natural language understanding and processing, so that the bot understands exactly what type of questions you're asking.
Yeah, one of the reasons we shared so many statistics on the growth of chatbots is because they work. They're an unbelievable tool, but they're not humans. Now, as time goes on, they're going to get even better and better, but the reality is they are not human beings. So it should be very clear what that person is dealing with. And like I said earlier, your consumers will be just fine with that. We have room, let me see, we have maybe one or two more quick questions. One is, should I put a chatbot on the web, or should it go on a messaging platform like Facebook? Which way should I go?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Most of the time, what first, as a part of your bot exercise, you need to understand is, where is your customer? Whether they interact with you on Facebook, do you have a lot of social presence, that focuses on either promoting your products or services? And it comes across from different verticals as well. Like, for instance, a health organization like the St. Jude's Cancer community, they are very active on the social as less active on their own web promotions. But they are very active on Facebook, Twitter, and these kind of lines. So we need to understand where exactly our customers are. But at the same time, we also do suggest that have the bot deployed in every instances of your brand, which includes your web. If you have a mobile application, include it there. If you already have Facebook accounts on Facebook pages, then create it for that platform. So that's the essence of a bot. Let it reside everywhere so that it can reach out to your consumer at any given point of time, 24/7.
Okay, so there's one last question, and now it's right at 1 o'clock, so this will be quick. And this is related to the last one. So how is it that I get my prospects to engage let's just say I have one on Facebook. How do I get prospects to engage with that chatbot that's on Facebook?
So one thing that if you have to stay ahead in the market, you definitely have to promote a lot about the different technologies that you are considering for your business. So in that way, you definitely have to promote that you have a chatbot, whether it is on the social promotions or web promotions. You have to let your people, your users know that there is a bot available where they can use it to interact with you as a brand. And that also means that most of the time, a bot has to be in the directory, which means that the bot has to be deployed for Facebook or for Twitter and things like that, or different social networks. So you have to leverage these platforms for social ads and social promotions. Only then people would be made aware that there is a bot, and they can add the bot as a contact. That's how we interact with a person. We add the person to our contact, either whether it is on Facebook Messenger or whether it is on any other messaging platforms. We add that person, and then we start interacting. So once you add the person, the bot itself will know what kind of history you are doing in terms of interacting with that particular brand, whether you're hashtagging, whether you're sharing their own promotions and things like that.
All right. Well, look, we're 2 minutes over. Ritwik, awesome. Thank you so much. For everyone out there, thank you for hanging in there with us. Again, we'll be sending the presentation. There's someone had asked us to email them an answer to a question. We'll do that as well. Let me just, on behalf of Integra Technologies, thank you all for spending the time with us today. And I wish you all a wonderful afternoon. Thanks again for spending the time. Thank you.
Take care.
Everyone.